Hi everyone, welcome back to Photomode Unplugged. We are hosts Ruben and Mick. And before you watch this episode, before you do anything, go on Twitter, go on Instagram, and search for PM Unplugged. Follow us, please. Hi.
Nice. I'd actually forgotten about that.
About our Twitter and Instagram that people should be following.
That they should definitely be following, yeah. I don't think I've told anybody, apart from we mentioned it on here the last time. Sorry. That's your job anyway, that's your bit. You can...
So, I don't have... Yeah, I don't have a nice segue into this.
We don't need one.
I wonder if your background tells us anything about what
does it
we
give
are
anything
discussing
away,
today.
or even the famous hoodie is back. It annoys me that he's not quite visible on my camera.
That's why you need a webcam. You can change it very easily.
I can change that. I can zoom out nice and wide, but then you can see the cupboard and things like that.
Okay, you need to find a better space. You need a new home for this podcast.
Yeah, a dedicated studio would be lovely. Yeah, why not? But yes, so the clues are this week is just The Last of Us, for good reason, because the TV show has just finished.
There's a Last of Us TV show.
No, there isn't. It's a cartoon.
I wish there would be more infected on a cartoon, but let's not go there just yet.
Yeah.
Before anything, what's the story of the relationship between Naughty Dog and Virtual Photography?
It's quite an interesting one, actually. Both good and bad, I think, because they've been one of those studios that sort of they've had long-term support in the games, albeit with not the best of photo modes. And for a long time, they didn't really do any sort of interaction. But then, more recently, that's improved, and they've, with each release of their games, they've actually improved the photo modes in some ways.
That's the one that it shocks me that they started with a very bare bones one with The Last of Us remasters.
I'm not sure the release dates actually, but I think maybe the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection had it first. Was that their first?
But that was Blue Point.
Okay, yeah.
That was a port led by Blue Point, and I'm not sure which one came first, the remake or the Uncharted collection.
Well, we can have a look, but anyone who knows the answer and wants to tell us, then do the thing.
Please.
Go below and tell us what we got wrong.
And I'm not sure if the remake, the remaster came before Uncharted 4.
So I think it was 2014. The original was 2013, wasn't it, on PS3?
Yeah.
And I think it was just the year after. Which
Then
I think that's before Uncharted 4.
Then their first photo mode was the remaster.
Yeah, but
for sure,
whichever it is, they've always had and still have a critical failing, and that is that they stick to this orbit camera. I don't even like referring to it.
And it's a weird implementation of the orbit camera. It's not quite like it's not exactly like Horizon, for instance. It's like,
well, no, because Horizon is not an orbit,
isn't it?
No, so there's a difference between it being bound. Like the Horizon camera can turn away from Aloy.
Okay.
The point of an orbit camera is that it's always facing the character, and that's its point of rotation. But a non-orbit camera can move and rotate on its own axis. The trouble is, with an orbit, as in one that's tethered to the character, if you want to turn around to look the other way, you've got to swing around the other side of the character, which moves the camera far away, and the character's in the way. The actual trouble that they've really got is that it's really fussy with collisions as well. So you're moving to, you're always facing towards the character, so you're moving around backwards a lot of the time, and it bounces off objects, and you very easily get stuck on, say, a bench. Or as I'm saying that, I've got a flashback to Uncharted 4, I think, one of the early sequences when they're walking down a corridor, and I was trying to just get a certain angle, and I could not do it. It's so frustrating because the camera you just about get it, like, there, that's where I want it, and it'd bounce up and go around, I don't know what. And it was just so frustrating.
It was a difficult experience. Like, I photographed Uncharted at the very beginning of my VP career, quote unquote, and it was a horrible experience compared to other games. Like, I rushed through the game because I was so sick of taking photos after, like, chapter 5. I just don't care about the photos anymore.
And you don't see a lot of people ever going back to it because it's not, like you say, it's not a great experience, and it shows that even with fairly good content, if the camera's bad to use, it just puts you off and you become quickly uninspired by it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I didn't get part 1 on PS5, because I knew it was coming to PC, which meant camera tools, which meant a better way to control the camera. So I just waited until, and it's coming out March, so this month, at the end of this month. I'm okay.
Just for the sake of that, freeing the camera will be worth it.
Yeah. It was, plus with I'm dying to try the lights that they added on part 1, because that jump was a leap. It was quite a leap between part 2, the photo mode in part 2, and the one they gave us on part 1. Like, part 1, the lights alone make that photo mode so much better. Yeah.
Part 2 was already a fairly big improvement, actually. They sort of revised a lot of the UI. They reordered, I think, the sequence of the tabs and things. It was a lot more user-friendly. It's actually quite a good workflow as you go through it. And it was really, really held back by the camera, as it still is. But yeah, it's interesting that they've developed every other area of the photo mode, which is a great thing. It shows that they're actually paying attention to what people want and use, and what is good for sort of creative ideas and things. Because I know one of the things that you like as well is the wording overlays. They're not just frames or basic stickers. It's those sort of transparent overlays that you can have, and you can actually set colors, and you can even have it match the average screen color. So even like for the borders, like normal black borders, you can set a transparency, but you can make it match the color, so it'll change with whatever content is on screen. Nothing else has done that. But yeah, the lighting is a massive addition, and
I wonder
probably as
if
good.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna say it pretty much as good as Insomniac's. In some ways it's better, and in some ways it's not quite as good. Mainly in the power, the lights are not strong enough, I feel. But I love the UI for them.
We both froze.
It's fine. Carry on. You're back.
No, the thing that I was going to say is, first of all, it's very interesting to see different studios tackle the lights, how they do the lights. It's like Gotham Knights and Kena are static lights. The way Insomniac does is with those 3 balls that you can place. The UI in Naughty Dog is like that dotted thing. I really like the way that UI looks. it's quite interesting to see how they are tackling. But I wonder if they aren't improving the camera because of the game engine. There is something in the game engine that doesn't allow them to give us something else.
I don't know about that. I think it's still a lot of Photomodes. I think defaulted at some point to an orbit camera, especially for a third-person game, because of repurposing the game camera. That's the origin of it, I think. But I mean, Ghost of Tsushima shows how that can be circumvented by making the point of orbit mobile. So all they do is move the orbit point. Instead of it being tethered to the character, it goes really close to the camera, and then you can move that point of the center of the orbit. So that's a solution. So that's still technically using orbit camera, but you've got the freedom to move around and not be facing the character all the time. That's the big drawback.
PlayStation Studios should definitely talk to each other about photo modes.
Sure they do.
But you said something at the beginning that I really want to touch on. The relationship between them and virtual photography is not only... It's weird not only on the photo modes that they do, but their social interaction with people that do VP. For a long while, they just didn't, or very little engagement with the community. And I think it was on The Last of Us Day, September 13, they changed the name. It used to be Outbreak Day. I wonder why they changed the name. So they changed the name, and they also chose 4 different VPs to do 4 different themes for an entire month. And they did they retweeted their favorites of people using the TLoU Photomode hashtag.
That's the current one. I don't know if it might have been the same one still. It makes sense to be because it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, that was good. They basically made a community theme, like an official community theme, and like you say, involved some community members in getting them to pick the weekly, because it's like 4 weekly themes. They picked the themes and got a chance to sort of showcase some of their work as examples to start it off. I thought that was a really good and actually quite an innovative way to engage with the communities, especially from someone who's so far up until then had very little involvement.
It was a great way to introduce their relationship with we are here and we are here to stay.
Yeah, that is one thing with Naughty Dog. If they're gonna do something, they do it properly.
They do it, and that same year, it was the first time that they had someone on the VP Awards panel, right?
Yeah, so it was Dina, who's from their community team, actually. And yeah, she was on the panel for 21. And then they've come back. They've actually changed the member this year. The year just gone for 22, which I always find interesting to see who wants to be involved and things, but I got lots of great feedback from Naughty Dog and from Dina especially, saying that they're really enthusiastic about being part of that. So I do think they're aware of the virtual photography space a lot more now, more recently, last year, 18 months or so.
Yeah, they continue to support VPs. They continue to share. Now they retweet some less often than the other studios, but they do share content. And most recently, because of the show, they had the challenge of trying to recreate scenes of the show via the photo mode.
I don't think it ever said recreate. It was for 3 episodes, you're right. I don't think they ever said recreate. They just said inspired by episodes 1 to 3, 4 to 6, whatever. the natural thing is obviously everyone wants to recreate the scenes as you do, but to be fair, a lot of the scenes that the show has recreated are from the cutscenes anyway.
but I've seen some really good, like, oh, this is a really nice recreation. Like, some people even put them side to side, the photo mode shot that they took and the scene from that episode, and I really like it. There is, I can't remember the episode now, but I'm thinking about rewatching the whole season once I go through the game, because I want to take this challenge.
Okay, so
and there is
side by side.
Yeah, and there is one shot of, like, I think it's when Joel is talking to Tommy, or right before Joel talks to Tommy, that you get this. Oh no, it's after he has that argument with Ellie. You have no idea what loss is, and he goes away. He goes to a room, and the light of the lamp gives a rim effect, and you just see the silhouette of Joel's face, and I'm like, I want to take that shot so badly.
Well, with the lights, you will be able to do it quite easily, actually. The lights are excellent for exactly that kind of thing. Like I said, they're not really powerful enough to work at great distances, but if you're quite tight on a character, they're fantastic. And obviously, there's fairly easy to find, plenty of darkened areas, fairly dull, gloomy environments and stuff. So you get a lot of chance. The sewers are good. In fact, the whole Left Behind sequence is quite good for them. Yeah.
Oof,
so those challenges, those challenges, by the way, I think they not only did them on social media, but they posted them on the Naughty Dog website.
Naughty
as well.
Dog blog, yeah. And the previous ones also, they post what they like. They did the same this year on The Last of Us Day. They did it again with the challenges, not involving members of the community, but they did themes around it. And every time that they do, they post them on the website, which is great. It's another great way to showcase that they do things with quality. Like, if they are going to do it, they are going to do it properly.
It'd be nice to see, actually, some of those, because like Santa Monica have done similar stuff with their, brand page, whatever you call it. But they don't necessarily make their way to the PlayStation blog, and you'd think they'd just kind of cross-post that. It would make sense, and that would be brilliant, because then you'd be reaching a really big audience. But yeah, good to know. Good to see them keep doing it, and I look forward to seeing where they go next. I really want them to fix the camera. I don't know anything about this, by the way, but I just happened to see a screenshot from the PC version. There's an extra tab in the Photomode UI. There was an extra thing on the end. I don't know anything about it, and I've not had the time.
That makes me think, because last week they launched a new trailer for the PC version, and it was called Improvements, and there was like dual sense, and photo mode was in there. So I just thought, okay, they are announcing like the improvement between their old photo mode and their part 1 photo mode, and now
it might the PC version of the photo mode. I don't know. I will, I'll see if I can find out anything, actually, but I have no idea what it could be. It's an extra tab. I know I saw someone going, "Oh, this might be the option to change from an orbit camera." I don't think it's that, because it's at the far end.
No.
And you wouldn't do that via the UI, really. Having said that, Spider-Man, for example, does have free versus orbit in the selfie.
Yeah, but
look forward
it's
to
right
at
the start. It's the
Exactly,
first
it's the
thing that
first
you
tab,
choose.
yeah.
Maybe it might be something like hot sampling, like Days Gone.
Yeah, I thought that, or at least just maybe something to switch between the different aspect ratios that it supports.
Yeah,
Because you can play
or
ultra wide.
capturing. There are a few games on PC that have the option to capture in the photo mode instead of having any button, or like, for instance, the capture button on the PlayStation controller very rarely captures screenshots on the PC. So it might be that some games like the Midnight Suns, you don't have a button to screenshot. You have to go to that part of the menu and actually press capture.
Yeah.
So it might be that.
Which sounds weird, but they usually remove the UI when doing that, don't they?
Yeah.
And yeah, it does work. So yeah, we shall see. Anyway, so
Let's segue.
the big the big thing that you can't possibly have missed. I know some people are like, oh, I'm gonna watch it straight away so I don't get any spoilers. I'm like, you already know the story, right? But the Last of Us HBO show, have you watched it?
Yes, I've watched. I watch every episode on Wednesdays usually,
All right.
but this one I had to watch to get ready for this recording.
For today. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first episode I actually watched at the very first showing of it, as in the live time,
Yeah.
which was like 2 a.m. here or 3 a.m. and it was a very long episode. So it was
We
like
tried. I was in San Francisco back like it was when we arrived, and we tried to make a watch party in one of the hotel rooms, and we all fell asleep. Like all of us fell asleep in the middle of the show.
Is that an indication of what you thought of the show?
No. It's just we after 16-hour flight or something like that of jet lag and everything else, there was no way we would watch. We actually got pretty far. Like, we met Ellie. It's like halfway through the episode, if I'm not mistaken. So we got far, but there are points of the first episode that make no sense to me.
No sense.
Yeah. Why is the guy talking about... Why is that important? The guy talking about the tower and talking about not being able to contact Tommy. Like, there is that whole scene that
Because that's
Joel
just
meets
setting
with a
up.
whole guy.
Yeah, so, okay. So before we get on to, like, just generally what you think of the execution of it, that's one of the things that they've done several times in it, is give a bit more motivation and purpose for Joel's actions. Because in the game, you don't necessarily question why you're doing the next thing. And in a TV series, the narrative is kind of created a little bit more for you. So I think that whole thing was to give the backstory as to why he was desperate to find... he's lost contact with Tommy. Yeah. So that's... The radio guy is one of his contacts that he can, have you heard from him? No. That's his driving desire, that he wants to go and find out and make sure he's safe. I think that's all that was about, really.
Yeah, but it's like a 5-minute scene that and he could as easily said to Tess, "Oh, we have to go find the battery because I lost contact with Tommy."
Yeah, but it's okay. But if you do that, you're not creating the motivation. The character's just saying his motivation.
Yeah.
But if you build it through narrative and seeing his on-screen anxiety about it, it's more believable. I think that was fine. And actually, by the way, the battery thing was
that was
an excellent change.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Not we need more guns when they
exactly, yeah. with
Filled
some
with
sort of
guns, yeah.
arms dealers, you know.
Yeah.
But guns in a
Yeah.
game, you don't question. You're like, yes, all the guns. So, what did you think
Going-
overall of the show? Like the way they've done it.
I have one question: is the
Go on.
casting? How do you feel about the casting? Because they are physically really different. I think than the characters of the game, and that first impression of every like Tess is really different
Yeah.
physically, and that first like impact, it got. I had to have a few lines with almost every character to be like, oh, it feels like X character. How do you feel about that?
It didn't bother me. I understand what you mean, because it's kind of like changing the actor halfway through a show or something. You do get used to it. I think the casting of Joel and Ellie is perfect. They were spot on, like really good. Sarah and Tommy, Tess, they're different, like, but I don't think it was a problem. Oh, the acting was excellent throughout. That's
there is no weak link. That's the thing. There is every actor brought their A game.
Yeah.
But you talked about Tommy. Right at that first like scene where they are in the car and he starts speaking, even the tone in the actor's voice looks similar to Tommy's from the game. That was interesting to me because they are physically really different. It was weird to like, oh, it's Tommy. Like, because I always saw Tommy, and I guess it's because of the image of the second game as an older guy, and Tommy in the looks really young at the opening of the show.
If anything, I was a little bit distracted by the fact that he's a Terminator. It's like, oh, he's the Terminator.
In the new, it's from Genesis. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, I really like overall. I really like the show. I think the only parts that I don't think worked very well is episode 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Henry and Sam's plot is nice, but I don't need to know the motivations of the hunters from the game. The hunters in the game are basically it's Kathleen in the show.
Yeah.
In the game, they don't exist. That whole plot doesn't exist, and I get it. I get that explaining some motivations behind some decisions of characters in the game, it worked in the show. Like episode 3 is excellent. It's one of the best episodes of TV ever, and it explains the motivation of Bill, how he set up the town, why he set up the town, why he chooses to save Frank, all of that. Excellent. The added context to Kathleen didn't work for me.
No.
Like, I would rather have more time with Henry and Sam during that whole thing than I had with someone that dies two episodes after you met her. But there is one thing that the show did really well with her, because her last speech is to Henry about, oh, you will sacrifice everything to Henry is the adult, the older brother. You will sacrifice everything for him, and the world doesn't revolve around him. Kids die every day. That whole speech connects very well to Joel at the very end of the show, and that's the only thing why. Yeah. That's the only saving point of Kathleen.
So I agree that they were the two probably the weakest episodes, partly because it felt like Henry and Sam we're not in it enough. We didn't develop enough of a relationship with them. And also Kathleen, and it's not, I mean, since some people sort of criticize the casting for it, I don't think that's the case, because you can have quite a mild-mannered, mild-sounding person who's still very, ominous. That's
David?
easily done. Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect one. He's really excellent. But with her, I just didn't get why people would follow that kind of person. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's clearly a bit unhinged, and I understand that she's got this motivation of revenge from her brother, I think, was it, that's been killed. Yeah. But I didn't feel why the group would follow that. I don't know. I just didn't feel that it was developed in a way that I believe.
David, it kind of makes sense because they know he's unhinged, but he is the leader of those guys, and he's protecting and feeding the people.
With themselves.
but Kathleen is just someone that's there. She's not like she. I don't know. It's very
kind
weird
of came across as a rebellious individual that somehow just gave orders to everyone, and it was not questioned.
And the motivation is revenge. The others know, because that's the biggest thing about David. The people that are following him don't know most of the motivations, or if they know, the motivation is keeping us alive. Her motivation is revenge. And they are like, okay, but we will die because of this. There is literally infected coming out of the sewers, and you are telling us revenge. We ignore this problem, and we will follow you.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. It maybe we missed something. I don't know, but it wasn't something I enjoyed.
And the entire world, because no one.
But on the whole, I think the rest of the show, it's actually really remarkable how closely they sort of recreated the game. Yeah, in some ways,
was really good.
Maybe to its detriment. Like, it was a little bit too bound by it. But I think overall, it was a really good job. The bits that I did enjoy especially is where it's not just, oh yes, that's the game, that's as I expected, because there's not really any real surprise or any element to that other than it being as good as what you wanted. Then you just go, yes, good, I'm satisfied, I guess. But the bits that I really enjoyed is all of some little areas and some big areas where they added to the universe and they built more of the characters. Episode 3 is obviously the big example there. I didn't say anything about episode 3 before because I thought that'll just interrupt the other thing that Episode 3 is unbelievably good. It's one of the best and most powerful things that I've ever seen on TV. I cannot believe how good that was.
It's crazy to me that people call it filler, or they say it doesn't matter for the story. It's like, are you even watching this? Even if it was filler, which isn't, it would be good filler. Like, it's
a standalone episode. You can watch that without knowing the rest. And even if that's all you did, like if someone was not interested in the series, I'd just say, watch episode 3.
Yeah.
Because it finished and I was like, that is The Last of Us. That's exactly what The Last of Us is all about. It was perfect. It was such a good episode.
And it gives a nice sort of... So one thing that we haven't... The only episode that we haven't talked about is the finale between ourselves. But one thing that I really enjoyed is the conversation about the scar. Yeah. Joel has I love that conversation because it substitutes the conversation about the photo. In the game, it's a photo. Ellie has the photo of Sarah. Joel. And I love that conversation because it's the second time that suicide is mentioned in the third time if you count Ellie, but it's a nice way. Like Bill had his life full. His last speech with Frank is like something like, this is not a old man dying. Is like, I lived a full life. I'm okay with this. I made my choice. And Joel not being able to do that at that moment is a nice sort of connection with Bill. His life wasn't complete at that moment, so he wasn't able to go through with it. I really, really appreciate that scene because that episode 3 is really great to put things in perspective, like what Joel will do for Ellie the same way as Bill did things for Frank. How far will you go for love in a world where there's nothing to live for? And that to me is The Last of Us, is how The Last of Us is the last of humanity, not necessarily the last of humankind. Like the last humanity in the world. Even in the show, they show very little Infected, and there is points where I think that was wonderfully done, like the finale not showing Infected. I thought we would miss it. I think it was great that they didn't show it.
I think, yeah, on the whole, yeah. There's okay. So the clickers, I think, were a little bit underplayed. I didn't feel that in the game, the clickers are a game mechanic as well, as in you've got to behave differently because it's not about being seen by them; it's about being heard by them. And I didn't feel that the same tension in the presence of a clicker came across in the show. Then the whole thing in episode 5, was it, with the bloater? I didn't like that there's such a large horde of them for a start.
No.
I thought the bloater was kind of there for the sake of it. It did its bit, killed the guy, then literally walks off screen. That didn't really work for me. The thing that had mostly put me off, well, okay, we'll go back to the start of it, is the switch from spores to tendrils. I don't understand why. As far as I can tell, it's just because they thought it was more believable. Listening to what the directors said, it's more believable that this tendrils can be confined to a space. I don't think that's necessary. Spores are real. You don't need to. They're not made up. Spores are a real thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much the mouth tendrils, like the scene with Tess, which was distracting, I think, is all that was. That had that been in the game originally, it would be quite iconic. So I do think it's quite an interesting and powerful scene. It's just weird that it was new and you were distracted. Like, hold on, what? That's strange. But the part about the tendrils I didn't like was just before that, in the same scene, when they step on one and it attracts the horde, like a Days Gone style horde that just all wake up and come charging. And I was like,
that's what they are in the show. That's what they are. They are Days Gone style hordes, and that's one thing. Like even on episode 4 when they show up, I didn't like that. I heard a couple of members of the production talk about that scene with Tess and the why they chose to put Infected instead of Fedra.
yeah.
And most people said, why would Fedra be there on the outskirts of the quarantine zone? They are all about saving the quarantine zone. And I'm like, because the Fireflies were there?
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole reason why they go there in the game. It's because the Fireflies are there. And Fireflies and Fedra are at like they are at war with each other. So that didn't make sense. And something that didn't make sense to me is Craig Mazin, the director of the TV show, talking about Cordyceps love, and that's why that scene with Tess happens, because
Yeah.
it's how they communicate with each other, and they want to love each other. No, that's it's just survival. They just, even in the show, it's just like they are trying to expand, they are trying to make more people be infected. It's not love. It's
No,
it's a
I
weird
agree
way
that it's
to
not
say
love,
it.
but I do think it's an interesting take on it, in that, because I did hear them say, like, we wanted to explore what does what does it look like if people don't resist, because in every other case people fight off. I thought that was an interesting thing for them to explore, actually. I just thought it was probably the wrong time to do it. The bit about why would Fedra be there, I do agree that it was justified, but I've always thought this about the game, actually. Fedra have been there to take out the Fireflies. Why would he then go away and then come back again? Like, it was sort of, right, now we're going to hide around the corner and then turn up in the riot van and storm the place. So that in itself has got flaws. But there's some parts of that scene. So I wrote the blog post about this, some little nuances that I thought were different, but not necessarily worse and better. Some were worse, some were better. Some parts of that scene are definitely improved. And at first I thought I probably preferred the game version. So one example is Tessa's line to Joel. I think in the game she says something like, "There's enough between us that you must feel some obligation," as in for him to take over the task of delivering Ellie. And then in the game, in the TV series, they totally change it. And she says, "I've never asked you for anything, not to feel the way I feel, not." And then her list gets interrupted, and then she just says, "Shut the fuck up." And I thought that really put a greater reflection on the relationship between them. It wasn't just, the game implies that they've had a relationship. The show implies that they had a relationship that was a bit more one-sided, and that she wanted more from it, and Joel was closed off to it. And like I said before about things adding to the universe, adding to the characters, that's one of the bits that adds more that we understand about Joel. And later on, like you said, the conversation with Ellie and the fact that he tried to commit suicide, that absolutely adds more backstory to Joel.
Yeah.
In fact, Henry and Sam are quite a mirror, sort of a parallel, a divergence, if you will, of the same scenario. So Henry kills Sam and then immediately has the thought of, what have I done? I've nothing left to live for. So he kills himself as well. And that's where Joel was. So it's almost that, alternate sort of reality of a similar concept of they're the same. And Joel gets another chance. And I think they do a brilliant job of improving the narrative behind what it is that Joel wants to do by saving Ellie.
Ooh, are we going there?
To the finale.
To that choice. Okay, what did you think about that choice? I love that they, in the show, like you said, they added one or two lines to give more context to the choice, to the what's happening, because in the game Marlene doesn't tell Joel that they actually didn't tell Ellie that she was. So in the show it's something like, we told her, we didn't tell her, she's not scared, she's being prepped for surgery, something like that. In the game, when they meet the Fireflies, she doesn't meet the Fireflies. She doesn't have an interaction. She's knocked out because she almost drowned, and then she goes to have surgery and whatever. In the show, they capture her conscious, like, and I wonder, when I saw that scene, I was like, how will they? And there is the scene of Marlene saying, "We didn't tell her that she has to die." Like that one was really telling of how much Ellie means to Marlene, because she didn't want her to be scared. I actually love the relationship between Marlene and Ellie now, because we saw.
Yeah, it's been developed a lot more than what we really understood from the game. A lot more.
Yeah.
By the way,
more.
the opening to the finale.
Yeah.
Obviously spoilers. This technically is spoilers because this is new from the game.
Yeah.
The opening from the finale, if you haven't watched it yet, go and pause this and go watch it now. So Ashley Johnson, we knew had some sort of role, and now we know what it is. I think that was a brilliant way to introduce that backstory.
I saw someone saying she gave life to Ellie both in the game and in the show, and I'm like,
in the story.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
it's really good.
Yeah.
But again, fantastic acting as well. By the way, I loved the whole sequence of that. Even to
we finally have confirmation of how Ellie became immune.
That's what I was going to say. It sort of shows where this immunity come from, because we never knew before. So I think that was brilliant. And her mum saying, "I gave birth before I was bit." She confirmed before, because she knows that no one would trust, and they'd just kill her. So yeah, I love that. And it really develops Marlene. And then you get to go back with Joel, and actually it then goes into what is probably the only gameplay recreation.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, the entire show, for every episode that they took out action scene after action scene, they took out Joel being the Superman that he is in the game, like knocking out 20, 30 people.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I'm like, how will they recreate him in the hospital taking out the Fireflies? It's not going to be believable, and they made it. It's
really
not believable. But he's him with, like, right after being knocked out, with a bad year, with like episodes of PTSD happening throughout the show, taking out an entire like battalion of people. Like, he knocked so many of them.
But that's just like any action film can be criticized on the same thing. But
not
actually, I think
shot, not a scratch, nothing.
That happens all the time in cinema and shows and whatever, and you kind of just roll with it. But I think the way that they did it in sort of this partial slow motion and in very muted audio, really helped to convey like he was just red mist, and he was just he'd gone on a rampage. Go on.
I noticed something. He becomes exactly like an infected. He has a mission. He doesn't think about it. He just
single-minded.
Yeah, it's just like an infected. It's like, I have to kill. I have to, and I love that, because every time on the show that they go with the muted sound, he's like reliving Sarah's memories. So I love that they muted the sound on that scene, because it's like you get into what's visually happening, but at the same time is a sort of a callback to all the scenes that you get Joel being sad about losing Sarah. I really like that one.
Yeah. Before it as well, in fact, it's during the conversation with Ellie, isn't it? So it's after the giraffes. and then after they mention the scar, and he says, because what is it? Ellie says something like, "Oh, I guess time heals," and he says it wasn't time, implying it was you. And I think the show does a much better job of really fulfilling that is. I mean, we kind of already knew it. You could interpret it, but the show really hammers home that Joel has now found his redemption, his new thing to survive for. And then when you get into that sequence of him rampaging through, that is really I'm not letting this happen again. I'm not losing another one. She's now his daughter. That's how he sees her. And he will stop at nothing. And so Sam asked me, who do you think you most would be like if this was real? And you think, well, I don't know, but Joel is probably the answer, because having children, you definitely feel that of you would do anything to stop them coming to harm, and you literally stop at nothing. I totally felt it.
Yeah. And Pedro's acting is top notch. The way he can turn very lovable, goofy. You know what time it is? It's the perfect time for bad puns into let's go into a killing machine kind of face. It is a really good actor at selling those kinds of shifts. But I don't know. The show made me think. I think the show explains better than the game why the Fireflies want to basically dissect Ellie. Mm-hmm. In the game, I always thought, okay, Joel was right. This is a bit wonky.
I think the game relies on you reading the lore and the collectibles.
And the show, it grew up with her. It's developed, they see her as Cordyceps. All of that explains a bit better, and how the vaccine would work. They explain that in the show. It doesn't explain in the game. So it's hard. But if I was in Joel's place, I would probably try to do the same. I will get shot in the first in the stairs.
Realistically, it's a little bit extreme.
But
would I go to any lengths to protect my daughter? Yeah. Definitely.
What if you were Marlene? What if you had to sacrifice a life to save the world?
It depends who it is, really. This is why it's always the show, the game and the show is about perspective. It absolutely is about perspective. And from Joel's perspective, I think saving Ellie is totally understandable. It might not be, a nice thing to do, but as they say in the thing, they're not nice people. But I understand it. I definitely understand it. Which leads us on to the reverse, though, of Ellie and Ellie's take on this. So that's Joel's motivation. What about Ellie?
I think, especially at the end, it explains what Ellie is. Ellie is trying to go out. So, I think she has a severe case of survivor's guilt after Riley. She explains that Riley basically died and she lived. Right there, she feels guilty about that. Then Tess, then Sam, then Henry, then all the others. And it puts a pressure on her to live life, to be happy, to do something with her life. And since she's immune and she thinks she can cure the world, taking that away from her is no, you're not. You have to live with all the people that died just so you could live. They sacrificed themselves for you, not necessarily because they thought you had the cure, but because they were trying to save a person. And that survivor's guilt, I think it tells a lot about Ellie. She would do anything to die and not be a suicide.
I don't know. So that's in a way suggesting that Ellie the whole time is very selfless, which I don't think she is. David certainly doesn't think she is. David is the telltale here because he is the dark heart, the evil-hearted character, and he sees in Ellie the same thing. He knows that Ellie's like that. Go right back to the episode 1, and you've got the comparison between Sarah and Ellie when Joel kills the grandma, the first infected. Sarah is shocked and scared and brought to tears by it. Ellie, then Joel has the flashback with the soldier, and he kills the guy by hand, like very violently. And Ellie's kind of intrigued. She's not shocked by it. She's drawn in by it. She's got a lot of, as we know from part 2, that she just becomes quite a horrendous monster, and David sees that in her. So I think that was another good expansion of David sort of wanting to bring her on board as his co-leader, if you will, because the same sort of power couple, isn't it? I don't think Ellie's selfless at all. I think I agree that she's probably got the guilt over Riley and she needs a reason to survive again, but that is also what Joel's story is all about. It's their reason to survive for each other.
I think she needs a reason to die. That's the thing. I don't think she's searching for a reason to survive. I think the reaction of Ellie during that first scene when Joel beats up the Federal agent is, oh, finally someone is trying to protect me. That's what, like, that violent person is trying to protect me, and that's
but she's still not shocked by it. She's sort of interested by it.
That's the thing. But I think she's trying to find a reason to die, because she can't just be all. She can't just kill herself, because that would mean that she gave up. I think she's trying to find a good reason to die. On the events of the first game, I think this changes at the end of the second game. At the very end of the second game, I think this changes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I do think that she's not just looking for a reason to die. I think she needs a reason not to. She maybe feels that she wants to give her life is sort of in place of Riley, for example. But from her, she learns this: no matter how short the time left, you don't give up on it, and all that business. So I just think the ending. So this is the key point of contention, isn't it? As to what does that ending really mean? And
the okay.
They ended it perfectly, by the way. They recreated that sequence as it should have been. It was bang on. I think the second game undermines that ending.
I don't agree with you.
I know you don't, but I don't know why yet.
We decided to save this because I think she ever since I played the first game, I think she doesn't believe Joel, but she chooses to.
Right.
To pretend to believe him when she says that okay. And when she goes back, spoilers for the second game. If you are watching this and never played the second game, spoilers for the second game. When she goes back to the hospital and finds out everything that happened. By the way, he in the show he tells her they are all dead, so I have no idea what like that experience will be. But when she goes back, she basically is just confirming what she always knew. Like, you lied to me. Like, I believe that the second game is just her having proof that Joel lied to her.
Okay, so that's not necessarily disagreeing, because I think the key part of the ending of 1 is that Ellie knows that Joel is lying. And what I think that episode 2 does is imply that she didn't know that Joel was lying because of her extreme reaction to finding out the truth. If she knew that he was lying, she wouldn't be that freaked out by it, because she already knew. To be so surprised and distraught, she has to have believed him truthfully.
That's the part that I don't know how they are going to do on the second game, because I think that her extreme reaction is, you didn't just lie to me, you killed all of these people.
Yeah, so what they could do is base it around, you killed Marlene. Specifically. Because that's basically now the person that's raised her.
Yeah, but she now knows Marlene is dead. There is no way for her to find out that it was Joel. It could be the Raiders that Joel.
Yeah, I suppose how she would find out, I don't know. But I just think the extent of her reaction just goes along with the fact that she believed him. And she doesn't believe him. She definitely doesn't believe him. No one can really say that she believed him. And therefore, the reason I think that ending is so wonderfully profound is that he's obviously barefaced lying. I love the way he's saying one thing and visualizing the memory of the other, of the opposite. Yeah. But then you've got Ellie, who reveals that she's had this loss of a friend, and now she's basically doubting the one person who is now there for her and is given the choice. And she, by saying, okay, chooses to accept the lie / ignore the lie. She doesn't believe that is truth. She ignores the lie. And that is the second selfish decision. It's the same as Joel's decision. Joel's is totally selfish to go and kill everybody and sabotage the cure and everything, the whole world, for the sake of his new daughter. And Ellie's decision is to not follow up on that for the sake of having someone to take care of her and someone to survive for. It's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I just don't agree that the second game undermines the first one by telling us she never knew. Like, I get her extreme reaction when she finally has proof that happened, because it like the scene in the museum, like, she asks Joel again, I never saw another immune person again. She basically asks him again if everything he told, and he kept on lying, even with all the doubts, even with all the certainty. She doesn't have proofs. Now she does, and she's throwing that proof at him. I think that's the extreme reaction. But I love that I never even considered that she didn't knew. So I love that some people like you interpreted that scene in a different way that I did. And I love that scene. The acting on that scene is really good. By the way, have you read anything about season 2 and how they are going to adapt the second game?
Only that it's more than one series.
Yeah, and they are uh, radically changing some aspects of it.
Oh, okay.
But
Interesting.
they went and said, like we did on season 1. So like episode 3, Kathleen. So I think they are talking about those and not saying like
Maybe.
some people that died are now
Are not gonna
surviving. I
die.
don't think, yeah, I don't think they are implying that.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they are dividing part 2 in 2 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be because of Pedro Pascal and the star power that he brings to the table. I think that's the main reason why they are dividing it, because it's not hard to put part 2 into just one season. It's just we need to use more of Pedro Pascal.
I don't know. Maybe there'll be plenty of flashbacks and things to fill
Yeah.
out. I did think that series 1 could have been longer though. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the characters were introduced and killed off again, and I would have liked to probably just spend more time with the extra, the world building. They could have done more. Henry and Sam's the best example. They were in 2 episodes, but it didn't feel like they were really in even a full episode, because they barely appear in 4. And then when they do get fully introduced in 5, they're taken out of it again. I would have liked just more time, to be honest. But on the whole,
and
I've loved it, to be honest.
that one is my biggest problem with the season. But other than that, I like the lack of infected for most of the scenes. Like the only one that I didn't like is the use of the bloater.
Yeah.
A scene with the bloater, like a proper scene with the bloater, would be nice, and a proper one extra scene with another clicker would also be nice.
Yeah, especially given how good the prosthetics were. Like, the actual makeup
So good.
was amazing.
So
Perfect.
good, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Looking forward to season 2 and what
Do you
happens
think
in
it's
this new photo mode.
Do you think it's going to come out in 2024, season 2?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. They're not already filming it, are they? I don't think.
No.
I've heard. I don't know. It'll take
I
a
don't
while.
think we will get one
No.
until at least 2025.
These actors are going to be getting old.
They need to, so that's okay.
But that's true. Yeah, they're old in the game. Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's wrap it up.
There's only one way to do it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So I liked that the joke book made quite an appearance in the show. So we may
Much
as well
bigger
pull it.
than the one in the game, by the way. There are more jokes in the TV show than in the game.
I think a lot of them are optional in the game. You've got to find those when you can press the button and do the additional conversation. I think you get some more that way. But I liked the one-liner one of what is it? Something like, "Oh, everybody's going on about the apocalypse like there's no tomorrow." That was a good one. But the one that I'd like to pick out is, and it was in the final show. It was what did the green grape say to the purple grape? Breathe, you idiot.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I like the what did the cannibal that was throwing up his hands, something like that, with Riley. Riley gave one. What did I would have to research it, but another great one is the screenshots of the there is one joke about PCs and screenshots, and they don't know they don't understand the jokes because there are no PCs
Yeah.
and screenshots. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't look it up. I should. Sorry. Do you have an original one? No.
No, we don't need any more. That's it.
Okay. Let's go.
Okay.